they're so invested. Here's the meta-analysis. Here's the meta-conversation, okay? When you get very passionate, and we do this in this stream as well, I urge you sometimes, when something seems so perfect, when something sounds so good, my immediate reaction to it is like, I'm going to exercise caution. Certain things are too good.
Oh, but when somebody says, oh, well, if we just socialize healthcare in the United States, every single fucking problem will be fixed immediately. That doesn't sound too good? Or?
To be true. Socialist with a billionaire father. Sounds like something that might be too good to be true. Now, I'm my own person. So regardless of my father's opinions, beliefs, or financial status, that still wouldn't really matter in this conversation, but at least it would matter for the memes, right? And what these people should do is maybe engage in a little bit of critical thinking, but they can't because they're so excited. They're so excited and so invested, right? That they don't realize that this causes many people to lose sight of that muscle that you normally are supposed to exercise, the critical thinking muscle. That's the problem, okay? So,
like, critical thinking muscle, like, I'm not invested at all. I don't give a fuck. I don't care about the insurance companies or the CEOs or whatever. If socialized healthcare or single payer, which by the way, I think is a superior option than what we have now, I support that, right? And if new data came out tomorrow showing that a fully privatized system is better, I would support that. And if new data came out tomorrow saying we should abolish literally all private health, I would support that. I don't really care. Little bro, you're the one who is totally locked into whatever bullshit on your side is. You could never, ever, ever change your option to be anything more market friendly. You can't do it. You're literally audience captured.
So these people who are very invested, in like finding the truth, and the best possible way to find the truth is through spirited debate. Like they end up shutting off certain parts of their minds that, under normal circumstances, will cause them to be a little bit more critical with certain narratives that sound too good to be true.
Holy shit! Wait, is he stealing every talking point of mine? Yeah, your brain is ordinarily working, but when it comes to certain political conversation topics, your brain shuts down. Jesus.
Off certain parts of their minds that, under normal circumstances, will cause them to be a little bit more critical with certain narratives that sound too good to be true. Okay, that's it. This is something that I talked to with Ta-Nehisi Coates about yesterday. With regards, the topic was in regards to Israel, but like. There's only so much that you can be wrong on until you just are wrong all the time and you are no longer interested in the truth whatsoever and you find yourself seeking out conspiracies further and further, okay? And you become like a QAnon supporter, basically. Or after the fourth
just name one thing I'm wrong on. We still got 3 more minutes.
Time, you're like, okay, instead of spiraling out of control and seeping further and further into madness, I should exercise a little bit of caution and really reconsider some of my first principles, some of my immediate lapses of judgment. That is the problem. And I think a lot of the debate space in general is so hyper-focused on being right and
how can you listen to this? How can his fans listen to him say the same thing over and over again? Name a point that we're wrong about. Are you just going to say the same thing? They hyperfixate on being right, and then they shut off the logical part of the brain, and then they're hyperfixated on being right, and then their brain shuts off, and then they are so contrarian, and they're hyperfixated, and they're contrarian, and they're hyper, like, can you name something? Like, do an actual point.
Or at least like appearing right and defeating and humiliating your interlocutors in the marketplace of ideas that you just have no interest in finding out the truth at all. And slowly but surely, you go further and further into trafficking in falsehoods. Because as long as your in-group is repeating those falsehoods, then it might as well be correct. After all, everyone around me thinks it's correct. You know, kind of how very postmodern of you, kind of like how you said you would end up eventually right in the end. I thought facts didn't matter as much as stories. Yes, I'm talking about the dangers of this. Do you just hear me say, unfortunately, narrative trumps the truth? Unfortunately, narrative is more important than the facts. And you think, oh, he believes this? Instead of hearing the things that come after that, which is, this is me telling you to exercise caution. Sometimes I think people are too stupid to have a conversation with. This person, I believe, is one of those people. It's really, really interesting that people go into the debate space because they want to repeat what they think are intellectually sound arguments. Everyone wants to be smart. People in this community do it, I do as well, okay? Everyone wants to be smart.
What? Then name one of them. I don't understand how we can go through an entire thing here. To be fair, I didn't watch the whole video. We just started it like a little over halfway through. Just name a single point. It should be really easy. Like how when Hasan brought up the 90% point, I was able to immediately point out where that came from. Well, he doesn't know where it comes from. I'm sorry. He probably got it off of a tweet. He's never opened this complaint in his life. Or I'm sorry, it's not a complaint. It's a civil action. Oh, no, it is a complaint. I'm sorry. Class action complaint. He's never seen this document before. He has no idea where that 90% claim comes from, right? But like that, so that's a specific thing that I think he's incorrect about. And I clarified because I can show in the complaint where it comes from. Like, give me a thing that we're incorrect about. Like, that's so easy.
Everyone knows that maybe they're not that smart. But at least they want to appear smart, okay? Now, I recognize I'm a dumbass, and I repeat that fact all the time. People in this community do it. People in Destiny's community do it. Everyone does it. People that read New York Times articles do it as well. Everybody does it. But the problem is, when people are so predisposed with appearing smart and repeating a person's takes that has...
He's literally repeating the same shit over and over again. Is he not going to say anything? Is he just going to do it over and over again?
Consistently been wrong. They don't realize that, they're not coming across as intelligent at all. Maybe rhetorically you can bully your interlocutor in that moment, okay? But you're still wrong. This guy literally is a go-getter. Like, I can't believe we are yelling at people now for being go-getters. Like, he's a real type A personality, dude. Look, why did he write that? Okay, first of all, I think we just had a conversation about how it's not weird to have notes like that on your notes app, on your phone. So I think, to each their own, okay? To each their own. I think you gotta cool it a little bit with whatever people decide to write in their notes app.
not quote-unquote innocence. Also new this morning, disturbing video of what appears to be posters popping up around New York City for other health executives. All of this as a suspect's lawyer is now speaking out about offers they say they've received to pay from outside to pay for his legal fees.
Obviously, my client appreciates the support that he has, but I don't know. I'd have to look in, but it just doesn't sit right with me, really. The Supreme Court says, all these rich billionaires can give all kind of money to candidates, and that's free speech. So maybe these people are exercising their right to free speech and saying that's the way they're supporting my client.
Joining us right now, CNN Chief Law Enforcement and Intelligence Analyst John Miller, CNN Law Enforcement contributor Steve Moore, also here with me. John, this is your new reporting. This is a big deal. This is the first positive forensic match that we know of. Walk us through what you've learned.
So, fingerprints collected at the scene of the Thompson from a plastic water bottle, from a discarded cell phone. This had to be the same gun they would have to.
Just a logistical kind of obstacle that needs to be overcome in order to get confirmation or not that ballistics match, you think? Or
the gun is actually the charge that they are holding him on in Pennsylvania. So that evidence needs to stay with him because, they're the ones who have him in custody, and he has not waived extradition.
In disagreements. What?
Hello?
Hello.
So, I want to say that with the AI thing specifically. Hello?
Hello? You probably have the stream up in the background.
Sorry, I did. I just closed it. So, with the AI thing specifically, you're totally right with people not reading and getting the information on that lawsuit and all. But I think one thing that you are missing is just the general ick when it comes to having AI algorithms determine even having any hand in the process. Because AI has been, one specific example would be showing that AI is remarkably terrible at actually identifying anything, the way that when they train AI to recognize cancer or skin lesions and stuff like that, because of the way they train these models, the AI eventually learned that any picture that has a ruler in it must be cancer, right?
Okay, wait.
Even on
just as a quick sanity check. You know that prior to AI or whatever, they're probably using other algorithms or things. They're not running through every single claim manually. They're probably not all being human checked. There's probably a lot of scripting that automatically does something.
I'm not disagreeing with that. What I'm saying is that just the fact that they are employing an AI for any specific cohort, any cohort at all, that has a 90% rate of overturned denials is where people get this ick with AI from, and why it seems so egregious.
Wait. So then is the issue the AI, or is the issue the 90% appealable denials?
The issue is the AI.
Okay,
right?
So then don't bring up the 90% appealable denials. So what? So are algorithms okay and just AI is bad, or?
I can't really say that for sure. I'm not coming in as an expert saying I know exactly where my particular ick comes from. I'm just saying that most of the people making this argument against AI are like you say all the time, when people make an argument against that something is bad, that they can't really articulate why they think it's bad. This is a perfect example of that, right?
Where I don't disagree with you. Yeah, that people say this and then people get icky feelings because they're retarded and nobody's explaining anything. But what do you want me to say to that? I can't, that it feels icky. Yeah, it always feels icky. But what am I?
Well,
I mean, that doesn't make it a good argument.
Right, but here's why I get to that, right? People not being able to properly articulate where they're getting this ick from in regards to this argument. And the fact of you make the argument that Dan Clancy is responsible in part for the climate at Twitch that allows the perpetuation of anti-Semitism, right? But somehow Brian Thompson isn't responsible for the climate at United Healthcare Group that is responsible for this type of distrust from his company and the institution as a whole.
So there's two huge differences here. There's two huge differences. So one, on the punishment side, no one is talking about murdering Dan Clancy, number one. So that's already a completely broken analogy, because if Brian Thompson got fired for this, one, we wouldn't even be talking about it. Two, I don't know if I would even have an issue with it if there was something wrong. Okay, so on one thing, we've got a huge difference there, is that nobody's talking about murdering Dan Clancy. Number two, we haven't even demonstrated that the company is doing something wrong yet. All you've told me is there's an ick. I don't even know if they're doing something that's incorrect.
Wait, hold on. So are we saying that because somebody murdered Brian Thompson, then that means everybody felt this way beforehand, and there aren't people who think that Dan Clancy should be murdered for perpetuating anti-Semitism? Because I would argue that there are lots of people who would argue that Dan Clancy deserves to be murdered for perpetuating anti-Semitism. But the only difference here is that Brian Thompson.
I'm not defending those people though, and I don't know who is defending those people. It's a totally nobody is, or if there are people, people would say they're unhinged or insane.
Okay, but what I'm getting at is that I don't know if I quite agree with the argument that you're making that Brian Thompson is somehow just some innocent bystander in the climate that breeds the type of mistrust that we get with insurance companies. And again, I'm not saying
then what did that? Sure, but then what was the thing that he did that was like illegal or ethically wrong?
Well,
what
okay,
the company was doing?
You would have to imagine that once, okay, if the fact that this lawsuit, whether it's meritorious or not, this lawsuit being brought against United Healthcare for using an AI that has a 90% appeal rate on its denied claims, that had to have been known internally beforehand. And if they were still using that AI when this lawsuit was first brought, then they knew about it before the lawsuit was ever brought, which means Brian Thompson knew that this was being used. And by not doing something about that, either prior to this lawsuit or doing something about that prior to it becoming public knowledge, then him being the CEO of the company necessarily means that
but we don't even know. We don't even know. One, we don't know what the baseline is for appeal overturns, number one. And number two, we don't even know if that 90% number is real. This is just alleged in a class action lawsuit.
Okay, but that's fine. Okay, again, I understand and agree with you that the numbers are what matter here. My point is that you can't just say that the people that have an issue with the way that healthcare systems are run or the healthcare companies are run and have a problem and believe that CEOs are being nefarious, if you don't and then want to make the argument that people are mad about things that they don't know how to articulate while disconnecting those two facts, right? The fact that Brian Thompson knew that this, if we believe at least the substance of the claim, not necessarily the specific number, but if we believe the substance of the claim that they were allowing the use of an AI for initial claim denials, then Brian Thompson knew about that, and his inaction to change that is a tacit approval of that behavior, and that's why people are mad.
That's fine, but people, we don't even know we don't know where that number comes from. We're not talking about if this is true, then this could happen, and then maybe he could be fired. We're talking about justifying a guy being murdered. We've no.
Well, by that same token, you're calling people retarded for information that they haven't had a chance to prove in court yet.
If you're acting like it's a good justification to murder somebody, yes, I will call you retarded.
I'm not acting like it's a good justification to murder somebody. I'm not saying that any of the justifications that have been made to murder him have been good. All I am arguing for is what appears to be, and I know you're too fucking smart for this, but what appears to be an intentionally dense refutation of one of your own arguments as to why people can't make cogent arguments as to why they're mad about things.
You're mixing up so many different things I've said. I can understand why somebody would be upset about a thing while also saying that the reason they're mad is retarded. That's my biggest criticism. I understand why people were mad after the housing collapse in 2007, 2008. I understand why people were mad about black people getting killed by cops. But my biggest criticisms of Occupy Wall Street and defund the police is that it was just a bunch of misdirected anger. Nothing came from either of those two movements. And that's what's going to happen with this healthcare thing. Nothing will change in the United States about healthcare as a result of this. And instead of having productive conversations about ways that you might be able to cut the costs of healthcare administration or cut bloat or whatever the fuck else you want to say, it's just going to be a bunch of people soy jerking about killing fucking CEOs, and people are going to feel happy about it for a little bit, and they're going to move on to the next thing in a month, and that's it, and nothing changed. So it's irritating to see all the misdirected anger that's being led by people that should know better.
I absolutely agree with you, but
no, you don't agree with me. You're making justifications and excuses for all of the people having these feelings. At the very least, content creators shouldn't be leading this. They should be doing more homework. We get paid millions of dollars. Why would we not do a modicum of homework around this?
Do you equate those that still have distrust with healthcare as a whole to the same unhinged losers that think that we should murder all CEOs? Are you equating those two cohorts?
No, I don't think I'm equating them. My criticism right now is over content creators. We're watching Hasan Piker, who are making dubious claims or uninformed or unsubstantiated claims about a particular guy in a healthcare scenario that one isn't even accurate. And then as a result of that, two, steals oxygen from good criticisms of healthcare. And then three means that it's just a bunch of misdirected anger that these guys make money on. And then we just go on and we do nothing about it. It's not good. It's all bad shit.
Okay. Do you think that the criticism of the tacit approval of using AI for approval claims, do you think that's a valid criticism to make?
No, you need data to back that up.
Okay. Fair enough.
What if the AI approval was 80% more accurate than human approval and denial? Would you think it's good then, or would you still think it's bad?
I would have to see those numbers, right?
I'm asking you. Let's say that it was the case that the AI was more accurate than humans going over things. Would you say the AI is good or the AI is bad?
If it was more accurate, then it would be good. But
Okay,
I have
then
every
wait,
reason,
okay, wait.
I have every reason to believe that AI are not better at that, because the evidence that I have seen about an AI's ability to assess data or to parse data is infinitely worse than a human trained in that same field.
Infinitely worse? In what way? You have no data at all. What evidence do you even have about this?
Simple. Okay, how about the example that I gave you about AI being recognizing medical photos with rulers in
So
them?
one, I don't even know if that's true. I could go look it up. My guess is you're probably misciting that. But two, these AI aren't being tasked with making medical diagnoses. They're just being tasked with whether or not you approve or deny a claim.
Do you think that a medical diagnosis is important to whether or not that claim is valid or not?
Yes, but I don't think that part of doing the claim denial or appeal has to do with the adjusters or the insurance company going back and re-examining your x-rays and trying to figure out if they're going to diagnose you or not.
Then how does the insurance company decide what is deniable and what's not otherwise?
There's probably a claim that's filed. They check your insurance to see what's covered. They probably check whatever standards of care they support or approve. They probably check for other contraindications or whatever like that, and then they approve or deny based on that. Do you think? Wait. Do you think that the approval or denial is based on them like re-diagnosing a patient?
No, I think that they're hold on, I'm wording this really badly. I think that they don't factor in the diagnosis that the doctor gives a lot of the time.
Hold on.
Okay.
How could you possibly approve or deny a claim if you're not factoring in the diagnosis from the healthcare provider?
So if the healthcare provider comes back and says, and this is a claim being made. I wish I could find the article to link you to. Maybe one of the chatters can find it, but the repeated denials of there's one specific anti-seizure medication that is denied as initial use, even though it is proven to be effective against a specific type of I think it's either like some type of cancer that causes seizures or something like that. But when dealing with claims around this specific illness, most insurance policies state that a less effective medication must be used and tried before approval of the more expensive, more effective medication can be used.
Okay, that sounds like a normal, ordinary thing. What do you mean?
So it's normal and ordinary for a healthcare, an insurance company to deny a more effective medication because a less effective medication is cheaper to use first. So basically what you're saying is as long as, how old are you? 35.
Can you give me like what random, like in the broadest sense that you're comfortable with? What do you do for work?
I am a water restoration tech. I used to do what you do.
Okay.
Or what you used.
You're a water restoration tech. I bet when you like water damage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, water damage, fire damage, mold, all that shit.
Yeah. When you go into a home and you're suggesting things that people could do for repair or things that people could do for, prevention, I doubt that you go in and you recommend the most extreme version of whatever you could recommend. So like, for instance, in a water damage job, I'm sure you put the water detectors on the drywall to see how far up the water's gone, and maybe you'll cut 6 inches above, and then you'll come back and you'll measure to make sure that moisture or mold hasn't grown. You wouldn't say we should replace all the drywall, right? You would do the cheapest option that's effective for the job. Wouldn't that be how you would approach every single job?
Yeah, well, I mean, but again, this isn't, one, you are right here. But the alternative here is that if we don't cut up far enough, then there's just a little bit of extra moldy drywall that we have to go back later and cut out.
Yeah.
In this specific scenario with these anti-seizure medications, the result is potentially thousands of children having to endure continuing seizures on a less effective medication so that they could prove to the insurance company that this more effective medication should have been used to begin with.
Sure, but if the more effective medication is way more expensive, then that means less people are going to have access to it because now you're paying out a claim that is 20x the cost of the other one. So generally, you start with the cheapest, usually the lowest side effect, and sometimes not the most effective option first. You try that, and if it doesn't work, then you move on to the next thing. It's very rare, even in the medical world, even if you had infinite money, it's pretty rare that you start with the most extreme version of a thing. This is why doctors will usually, for ADHD, they might prescribe like Ritalin or Concerta before they try, like Adderall or Vyvanse. Or somebody might prescribe like a weaker, lesser thing before they move, like some kind of SNRI or whatever, before they move on to like a more hardcore SSRI. Like generally in prescriptions, people do this. They'll start with like the easiest option. Usually that's the cheapest. They might try like a generic or whatever before they go on to like a more extreme option. That's pretty normal. You want to save money because you don't have infinite money and resources to buy everything. Like, isn't this just an ordinary process for literally every single thing ever?
But to generalize it like that, and to say that there should never be any exceptions to that practice when it comes to something like healthcare is like,
I'm sure there are exceptions. If it's like a life-saving medication and they're like, well, let's just try diet and exercise first, I'm sure that they wouldn't do that. But generally for any given like illness or for a lot of things, there are levels of like, where do we start and where do we end? And you don't always prescribe the most extreme thing first, right?
I mean, I agree with you, but again, we're talking about people's health here.
Sure,
like
but there's a cost to everything though, right? It's not free. Like this stuff costs money.
Wait, do you agree that monetary cost is equivalent to human cost? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Unfortunately, there is an equivalency there. Do you know what triage means? You know that like during COVID-19, when more patients are brought into a hospital than you have beds available, that they have to make decisions about who they can even treat, right? These are, healthcare is not an unlimited resource in our country where every single person can have every single thing at the maximum thing at all points in time. You have to make decisions. Every healthcare system in the world has to make these decisions. Even France and Germany and the UK, Canada, everybody else has to make these decisions, yes.
But we're not talking about pushing people out of the ER who have colds for people who are losing limbs. We're talking about insurance companies subjecting people to unnecessary suffering to make them try a cheaper option first. And you're 100% right. The whole healthcare system only works when the healthy basically subsidize the cost of those that are actually consuming the healthcare. Right? I agree with you there. That works.